you woke up for this. Hopefully, I'm not the only thing you have in mind for for today. I hope I wasn't the only reason you decided to wake up today, but I appreciate you being here nonetheless. Talking about the bowl cut. Thank you. I like these shades as well. It helps dealing with snow being reflected back into your face here. Yet another person who watches the Popcast while they should be in class right now. That's... I'm the #1 cause for truancy among low-level Splatoon players in North America, at least. The Teacher Association hates me. Yeah, Takora, I know what working means, okay? I work too. I work too, as well. Like, I'm on the clock when I'm doing the vast majority of my messing around on Discord and whatnot. Oh, yeah, Takora, you're in like, I guess I shouldn't dox you, but I think I know what state you live in. Hopefully this doesn't suck. Hopefully you're not in a sucky situation. The Hydra's looking thick. No, it's not. It's looking kind of scaled down a little. It looks a little compact, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what I think about the redesigned Hydra look. This isn't even... Alright, what's going up here? Yes, I literally just went, because I just checked over and saw Xylo signed up. So I guess we'll be talking about Xylo in a minute. Spoiler alert, Xylo is not in my top 10 because I legit thought they didn't exist anymore because they stopped playing in things. So yeah, Xylo's contender to win this tournament, and I'm not going to talk about him at all today because they wait till the last freaking second to sign up. So, what do you want me to do? This is y'all's punishment for waiting so long before actually registering for this tournament. Aw, I doubt they care. Pop Gun didn't put us in the top 10, so we're not gonna win. Jeez, not being in my top 10 is more of a blessing than anything, honestly. Also, hello, Carrot. I saw you said hi earlier. Who is the captain of Xylo? I would like to bring them on the Popcast interview. We'll ask them why they hate society, honestly, since they spend too long. Put Carrot in the top 10. Let's see. I'll squeeze you in between. Let's see. I guess I could take no diving out of the top 10 and put you in there, Carrot, honestly. Yeah, actually I'm going to do that. No diving, no longer in the top 10. Oh my goodness. Rip Salem, you mean Thicey bread? Let's hope Nintendo doesn't make a new console. Well, considering they're going to be coming out with a new Splatoon game next year, I think that that seems highly unlikely that they're going to be coming out with something new soon, at least. Let's raise that. Perfect. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, while you're accidentally throwing your friends off the side of the level in Super Mario 3D World, wondering what 80% of those games in the Nintendo Direct actually were. Resigning from your position of mayor in a Texas city for saying, quote, only the strong will survive, end quote, whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Shout outs to all my friends and viewers in Texas right now. That kind of sucks. What's going on there? It's somebody who lives in the Midwest. It's like, well, why can Texas handle a little bit of snow? There's literally just feet of it falling from the sky right now. We're handling it. The problem is Texas is not built to handle things like that, whereas cities in the Midwest are. So, some pretty not really cool things happening down in Texas right now. So, if hopefully those of you that are living there and you're listening to this, maybe this is a nice little distraction for you. Unless it's not. I don't know. It's not my job. Before we get into today's topics, yes, the patch notes came out. Or we got a patch that got announced this morning. I woke up and I saw Diolos commented on my tweet of, are you going to talk about the patch? And I'm just like, what patch are you talking about? And then I woke up and I saw, like, oh, okay, so there's some things going on. So let me comment briefly on it just by saying, wait and see what actually happens. Whenever a new patch comes out, we look at the notes. And then you guys get out the calculators and be like, well, 20% ink consumption means that this weapon's going to be completely destroyed. It goes from a 12-shot to a 2-shot weapon. It's like, no, stop it. When the last patch came out and Bamboo got the ink consumption nerf to it, people were like, well, this is it. Bamboo's done. We can't come back for it. And then the patch happened, and then we saw that, oh, you just got to put two subs of Ink Saver on it, and it's back to normal, and nothing's changed. So when people are saying H3 is going to be dead, look, if you play H3, you've pretty much dedicated your whole life to getting good at that thing. It's not something you can just pick up and automatically use. No, you have to actually practice that sucker to get good at it. So if you main H3, you've put enough time into that thing to where if an ink consumption nerf comes out, you're just going to adapt to it and keep on going. Nobody's going to drop H3 because of an ink consumption. Nobody's going to drop Squeezer anyways. You guys don't even know how to use the auto fire mode on Squeezer, so that don't matter. It's not going to change how you guys play the Squeezer as well. Some weapon specials getting changed a little bit here and there. Kind of affects things, kind of doesn't. Does it really bother you guys that play Firefin that you just have to get 10 more points to get your suction bomb rush. Suction bomb rush isn't a special to where you get it and then you immediately pop it as soon as you get it. You usually get it and you just kind of hold it and wait for the right time anyway. So that's not yeah, like we can overreact to everything, and people are usually in a rush to say, to get their reactions to patches out, and like, here's what's going to happen, and everything's going to completely change. And it's like, no, just wait and see what actually happens with this patch in practice versus what we see on paper. Because what we see on paper makes, you guys don't know. You guys don't know what a 20% ink consumption means. Like, you guys don't know what the math of that is, and you don't know how easy it is to just offset that nerf. Like, it could just be like one main of main saver, and then all of a sudden H3 is back to where it was. And it's like, well, what was even the point of nerfing it at all? So, the point is, I'm glad that they're still putting patches into this game. I thought that came out of nowhere. The fact that what happened yesterday, that we'll get into in a minute, would make you think, okay, well, they're done with Splatoon 2. No, they're literally just said, here, we realize you guys are still going to keep playing this game for the rest of the year. Let's make it even a little bit more fine-tuned for you guys. Go forward. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the patch note. Today, we are going to be previewing Low Ink. That is going to be this weekend. Yes, the last Low Ink was only like 3 weeks ago. I still have snow in my yard that fell during the last Low Ink that has not melted because it's been buried over by another 1.5 feet of snow in the meantime. So the wounds of last Low Ink are still deep and still here. And we'll discuss that. But first, about choked on my water there. So my first thought was, when they showed the desert canyon, was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but this definitely isn't Splatoon. Like, I even saw some of the crates that were in like the sand or whatever, and looking at that and thinking, that's not an inkable surface, so this isn't a Splatoon game. I don't know what this is, but it's the game at the end of the trailer, so it's got to be interesting. And then we see they pull back the little hood, and it's like, oh, that's an inkling. That is an inkling. That got me interested. And then we saw them pull out the crossbow, and I was like, oh no, this is gonna be like some Splatoon crossbow training thing spin-off game that's just going to make people angry. It's like, oh great, whatever. Then the train station comes, and they hop on the train, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is DLC. They're going to come out with a second DLC for Splatoon 2. That's going to be really cool. And then they got to the city, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's not Inkopolis. That's a whole new city. And then I just looked at it like this, and then the Splatoon 3 logo just comes out of nowhere, and I was like, no, oh my lord. That was completely unexpected. My mindset going into this direct was, yeah, there's not going to be a Splatoon 3. Like, people talk about Splatoon 3 every single direct, and it never happens. I didn't think it would happen on the Switch. We've only gotten one Smash Brothers per Nintendo console. We've gotten only one Mario Kart per Nintendo console. But here we go. We got two Splatoons on the Nintendo Switch coming out. That's awesome. That's unexpected. And it's going to be, well, we think it's going to be amazing. What does this mean, though? Because everybody's in a rush to get it, like the patch notes, everyone's in a rush to get their initial thoughts out and breaking down. Well, the crossbow doesn't paint much. If you look here at this frame of the trailer, you can see it's shooting arcs over there, and it doesn't really paint that much, and the E-Leader's going to be completely different, and Charger's not going to work because the mechanics of this jumping thing are just going to be too difficult for Chargers. Like, you guys have broken down frame by frame of a trailer And you're basically trying to explain what this entirety of the Splatoon 3 game is going to be when it isn't even going to be done for another year. so, uh, which is fine. Speculating about what the game's going to be is completely fine, but people coming to conclusions, final conclusions of what a game that is not going to be done for another year is going to be is, well, just an attempt to try to get more views and attention for whatever it is that you're going to do. So let me give you guys Splatoon 3 with a logical perspective from what we know right now. First off, people have already announced on Twitter that they're coming back. They're unretiring from competitive, and they're going to be grinding Splatoon 2 for the next year so that they can get ready for Splatoon 3. Let's talk about that for a second. That's fine. That's a good thing. I'm all for people coming back. We've seen things like this happen several times before. When Ludi gets announced, every single time Ludi gets announced, whenever Ludi just tweets out something that says soon, like they don't even need to announce a tournament. They just need to say, hey, we exist. People get excited and they say, hey, we're starting to come back, and they're going to post free agent ads. They get excited for that. When Squid House happened, at the conclusion of Squid House, people got excited for that too. And they were like, this is going to get me back into the competitive scene. I'm coming back. And some of them did get back into the scene because of the Squid House event that happened last December. This is going to be the same thing. Probably more, though. I would imagine more people are going to be hype about the announcement of Splatoon 3 versus the aftermath of the Squid House event that are going to bring people back in here. The question is going to be, though, what is the transition going to look like when we transition from competitive Splatoon 2 to Splatoon 3? I don't know, and nobody else knows either. People were already asking an IPL server, so when are you guys going to switch over to Splatoon 3? Like, bro, it just got announced 10 minutes ago. We don't know. Here's some things we don't know. We don't know when the game first comes out what the meta is going to be. What weapons are going to be changed? Is the dynamic of what makes the game viable for competitive going to be completely different from what we see in Splatoon 2? How many of you played nothing but E-Liter in Splatoon 1 because E-Liter was the busted weapon? And none of you play E-Liter in Splatoon 2 because it's not as good. What if K-Pro, Nautilus, Junior all suck in Splatoon 3? And you guys all become like, what if like Carbon Roller is the meta weapon that everybody needs to have on their team? You remember, and keep in mind, when Splatoon 3 does come out, it's going to be a few months before it's somewhat playable for competitive. You remember back when Splatoon 2 came out, you could win a tournament using quad tri-slosher. You could kill people with inkjet exhaust. Like, there's going to need to be some time to where patches come out and the developers realize, like, oh, okay, this thing we added is actually really unfair, so we need to adjust that. There's going to be some time to where both us need to figure out how the game works and the developers need to figure out how the game works as well. So there's going to be some patches and things, and the meta is going to constantly change. So that's going to take a little bit of time. But regardless, here's what we don't know about Splatoon 3, and we won't know until the game actually comes out. Is it even going to be a game that is built for competitive play? Or is Nintendo going to take the approach, after we just gave them the middle finger a couple of months ago, after we've seen the trend of how they treat Smash Brother games, after they come to the conclusion that they don't want that to be a competitive thing, and they literally laugh at people who break down patch notes for Smash Brothers, is Splatoon 3 going to be more geared towards a casual crowd? This could be a situation, for all we know, like Melee and Brawl, Like, what if there's some sort of tripping mechanic that's added here that kind of makes it so nobody can just completely dominate a lobby? If somebody's too good, there's Squid just kind of trips randomly, or something like that. What if this is a situation where we play Splatoon 3, and then after a couple months realize Splatoon 2 is way better from a competitive standpoint. And then we have like the Smash community where we'll have like Melee is our Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 or 4 or whatever is just like whatever the current most recent one is what we play. Like nobody plays Brawl in at LANs. Nobody plays Smash 4 at LANs. It's Melee, it's Ultimate, and it's 64. What if that kind of situation happens here? We don't know. It might not be a transition. Like we might just look at Splatoon 3 and be like, no, wait, this isn't it. This isn't it for us. This isn't it for the competitive scene. We're going to stay with Splatoon 2 going forward. That could be the situation for all we know. We don't know what the maps are going to be. And keep in mind, because of this uncertainty, here's some more things we don't really know either. We still got a full year of Splatoon 2. And once again, I said we don't know what the meta or what the weapons are going to look like in Splatoon 3. So, like, as we're going through tournaments over the course of this year, as we're going through low inks over the course of this year, in the back of our minds, like I use Splatlings now, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what if Splatlings just completely suck in Splatoon 3? And like all this time I'm spending putting into this Splatling isn't going to translate at all to what works in Splatoon 3. So like that's going to be constantly in your mind. You're like all you junior mains or all you armor bots, basically who make a living spamming armor for your team. What if there is no ink armor in Splatoon 3? So like all this time you're spending working on getting armors as quickly as you can and painting for your teammates and pushing with your teammates from a support thing. What if a support position isn't even meta in Splatoon 3? Like we have no idea. So that's going to be constantly in the back of people's minds of like as we're going over the course of this year. Like you're basically like for all we know, we could be practicing baseball right now, knowing that a year from now we're going to be playing soccer. Like we have no idea. And that's going to make Splatoon 2 for this whole year interesting. You're going to hear commentators talking about this a lot. You'll be like, yeah, this is how the game is played now, but we don't know what's going to be like in the future. And now, again, this is a year out, and we don't know it could be December of 2022 for all we know. I hope it's not. I think from what they showed us, they at least have like a good foundation of the game to work with. And when it gets closer to when the game comes out, I'll reach out to my TO friends, my analyst friends on like episode 110 of the Popcast, let's say. We'll bring them on. We'll be like, okay, so what's the transition going to be like? What do we need to see for us to know that this is going to be the legit future of Splatoon, the competitive scene? We'll ask those kinds of questions then. But it's going to take a long time for us to get to that kind of thing. So when people are saying they're coming back, they're going to grind their brains out. Like that trailer got people excited. It got me excited. It got everybody excited, as it should be. But keep in mind, we're not going to see anything for a while. It's going to be Splatoon 2 from here on out, at least for the rest of this year. You're still going to see juniors. You're still going to see K-Pros. You're still going to see Nautiluses. And that's just how it's going to be going forward for the rest of this year. Are people going to be complacent with that? Are these people that are coming back, are they going to be like, oh yeah, I remember immediately why I left competitive Splatoon 2. I didn't enjoy this meta or this scene at all. And that's why I left to begin with. Maybe I'll just leave and wait for Splatoon 3 to come out. So my point is this. just enjoy Splatoon 2. Because if this really is the last year we do this, Splatoon 3 is completely awesome as everybody is automatically buying into that mindset that it's going to be, then Splatoon 2, this is it. This is the last year. You know how many of you reminisce about Splatoon 1 and talk about how great of a game it was and how much better it was and how much the specials were so much better, the weapons were more balanced. You guys think fondly of that. Have any of you actually gone back in the past year and played Splatoon 1? It sucks, bro. It sucks so bad. Frame 1 invincibility on Bubbler is broken. The ink wall doesn't work properly. The Kraken is like all those things in Splatoon 1 that you guys have such nostalgic memory for was really, really bad. I promise you. If you go back, I got the Wii U right here. I might fire this sucker up and play. It's not a... Now look, the game's fun, but compared to Splatoon 2, it's not even close. It's not even close. I guarantee you the people that say Splatoon 1 is better have not played it in the past year because you're going to be in for a culture shock. You forgot how much things have changed. That might be the case with Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2 might be obsolete to Splatoon 3, and we might look back on Splatoon 2 in the same mindset. So before that happens, you now have a timer set. We know what the end date is as far as the year is concerned. So just enjoy Splatoon 2 while it's here. 2 years from now, the servers might not even be up. You know? Like, you might be... In Splatoon 1, you play that right now, you can lobby snipe each other easily and stage in each other's lobby for the entirety of a ranked session. That might be the case with Splatoon 2. So enjoy it while it's here, knowing that it's not going to be around for much longer. And in the meantime, try not to have too much of a love affair with Splatoon 3. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side of the hill. Sometimes it's you've got that hot boyfriend that you're with, and then you see that other guy that walks by and he's like, oh, that guy's pretty cute, but then you don't realize that guy is actually kind of a jerk, and then you're like, oh, why'd I give attention to that guy when I got this beautiful, handsome young man right here who actually cares about me and support me? So please, don't overhype it. Get excited about it. That's totally fine. And you know what? I actually love hearing people kind of speculate on some things. I know Tofu in our team is already like dissected frame by frame the trailer and come up with some conclusions and stuff. I like having those kinds of conversations. Those things are fine. And it's totally fine to be excited about it. Do you see those new hairstyles? That looks really cool. The braided hair thing was actually kind of hot. You got the little buddy with you, the little salmonoid or whatever. That thing, could you like bring that thing into battle? What is that crab thing? Do you see it like walking around? Can you like, is that going to be the new Ink Mine? Are they going to combine like Ink Mine and the Auto Bomb together to make that crab thing? It looks really cool. You get to pick like where you get the spawn. That's awesome. We can avoid being spawn camped because I can like land somewhere on the map or anywhere like that. That crossbow thing, bro. I'm going to main the crossbow when that comes out. Are you kidding me? That thing looks really cool. That thing looks really cool in practice. And everyone's like, oh, it doesn't paint really well. What do you mean it doesn't paint really well? Did you see them do a tech demo of it? Of course not. That thing looks awesome. I digress. I'm a little bit excited. You are too. Perfectly fine. That wasn't a Tofu impression. That was a legit my initial reaction to seeing those kinds of things. Just like the patch notes. Wait and see what actually happens. In the meantime, enjoy Splatoon 2. You don't know how long it's going to be here. Let's move on. The last rant I'll say as I'm transitioning. Skyward Sword sucked. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's some Zelda fans in here. Skyward Sword was awful, okay? And it all came down to the fact that motion controls just did not work like 10% of the time. and half the time you would just swing the sword, and there was a dude that just had like that electrical thing, and like no matter what you did, you automatically hit that and took damage. So the fact that they're bringing that game back after a decade and saying, bruh, spend $10 on this. We added a function to where you can just play with the buttons, and it's HD. The game doesn't look HD at all. So I'm sorry, Skyward Sword fans. Don't, if you're excited about it, great. But don't try to charge me $60 for that, Nintendo. Don't you dare. You got to do a little bit more than just add a feature to where I can play with just the controller like a normal human. Anyways, let's talk about low ink. Some things going into this low ink that I want to point out. First off, I do not think there's going to be as many teams signed up for it as we've seen last month. So far, 72 teams have signed up. There's a reason why registration is a little bit lower. First off, I think there is a little bit of SAC low-level tournament fatigue. SAC was literally last weekend, and then a lot of these teams also played in the Midpoint Cup. So a lot of competitive Splatoon's been going on, and I think some teams are looking at like another entire weekend of Splatoon. I think I'll take this low ink off. Secondly, it's very close to the last low ink. There is a tournament next. There's a SAC tournament on next Saturday, so to kind of like, collaborate with that. Low ink kind of pushed up their event to what is traditionally on the last weekend of the month to now the second to last. Well, you combine that with February being a short month and the last low ink being on literally the very final day of January. So there might be some low ink fatigue going on here too. Regardless, 72 teams have signed up right now. It's very logical to think that that number will climb up to 100 because all of you guys wait to the very last second to register. But that's fine. Less teams, totally fine. What this means is we're likely to go back to the 2-group thing instead of the 4-group thing, so we don't have to avoid. We don't have to do 4 groups to avoid 7 rounds of Swiss. So things are a little bit easier on everybody, not just the TOs, but the teams as well, so that they can have an easier shot at making it to Sunday instead of needing to go completely undefeated in their group to guarantee it. Now, when we go back to 2 groups, and obviously there's not going to be a Delta bracket. We talked about the possibility of a Delta bracket, but there needs to be more teams than 72 to sign up for that to be an actual possibility. But now that we're going back to 2 groups instead of 4, that the argument is going to come back up again. Somebody's going to be like, this group's stronger than that group. They don't know how to do seeding or anything like that, which wasn't something you could do easily in the 4-group thing. Like before, I've made the argument of how Group A did versus Group B on Sunday when the 2 groups played each other. You can't do that same argument accurately when there's 4 groups that play each other on Sunday, because there's some groups that might not, like Group A teams might not play any of the Group D teams at all. So it's not really like a fair comparison to be like, this group was mathematically stronger than that group when there's 4 groups and there's not enough head-to-head matches between those 2 groups to like truly analyze it. With 2 groups, you can, because all they do is play each other on Sunday. And there's only, obviously only 2 groups to compare to instead of 4. So look for more people to come back out and be like, this group was stronger than that group and all that crap, even though you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a part of the seeding meetings that we're in. So maybe, just maybe, they're built as evenly as we could possibly make it. Now, since there are less teams, and there is less information between the last low ink and this low ink, I'm not going to be talking about the gazillion of teams. I think the last time I did a preview, I talked about like 50 or 60 teams. Every time I mention that, the number gets higher. I talked about 128 teams in the last Low Ink preview. This time, I'm not going to be talking about as many, just because there's not as much information out there. It basically just the Minnow Cup and SAC is all we really have to go off of between the last Low Ink and this one, as far as like looking at how much teams have grown. They haven't grown over the course of a month. They've grown over the course of a couple of weeks. So we got a little bit less to work with and less teams registered. So I don't like to do the thing where I think this team's going to sign up, which is why Xylo isn't going to be mentioned in this top 10 at all, because I don't know if they're going to sign up. And apparently they decided to do so right now, taking their time to do that. And honestly, I don't even know if, like, none of these teams have been fully verified yet, so I don't even know if any of these teams will be allowed to play in. Who knows? We'll figure that out later. Regardless, there are some categories here I want to talk about. First off, the new teams of note. There's only one new team of note that I've found. The Pepper Poppers. This is a new team made up of some Low Ink staff members, Grace and Spicy, along with Karma, who is a Low Ink journeyman or journeywoman. Has been on multiple teams. So Pepper Popper's a new team to keep an eye out for. Kind of weird, because they do have a player that needed to ask for an exemption request. So here we have, publicly in the Low Ink exemption request channel, a Low Ink staff member asking for an exemption request for another Low Ink staff member, and then a separate Low Ink staff member coming out and saying, yes, we are approving this exemption. So that looks extremely sus to everybody involved, but trust us, this is completely fine. I don't expect Pepper Poppers to pop off completely and ruin this tournament for all of us, but a new team nonetheless that we want to keep an eye on and see how they do. Teams that didn't make a bracket last month that are trending up in the right direction. First off, the Alpha Squids. These guys went 2-4 in the last Low Ink. However, these guys have been playing in the LSL, Little Squid League tournaments, have been doing pretty good. Getting a 3rd place, a 4th place finish. They've been pretty consistently good in the LSL tournaments, which is important because LSL is an important tournament to have in this community that caters to a very specific skill level that often gets neglected by, well, not neglected, but never really has an opportunity to do anything other than just getting 2-4 in tournaments like Alpha Squids has been doing. But I think the success they've had in those tournaments will eventually start to translate into success here. And with less teams, going 3-3 can be enough to get you in the Gamma bracket this time around. So if Alpha Squids can find a way to get one more win, they might make Gamma this month. The Ink Vaders. This team has been dormant for a long time. Came back for their first tournament last month. Went 2-4 in Swiss. A little bit underwhelming for them. I'm willing to give them a mulligan, though, considering that is their first time breaking in the sea legs after a long hiatus. So Ink Vaders, I expect them to do a little bit better. I would assume their expectations are due a little bit better. This former Alpha bracket team or Top Cut team that made the top 16 before we did the 2-day system. Expect them to have a nice bounce back this month. Lastly, the Ink Strike Inklings went 3-3 last month, didn't make Gamma bracket, but played in Minnow Cup and really started to pop off there. They went 5-1 in Swiss and Minnow Cup, which is something you don't typically see from a team that goes 3-3 in Low Ink. So they got 2 more wins than what they had in Low Ink. That is quite the improvement. Ink Strike Inklings were one of those teams that they were getting better and better in the beta bracket, and you were thinking like they're going to eventually flirt with starting to make alpha brackets. Took a little bit of a step back in the most recent months, so maybe this Minnow Cup was a return to form for them and something they can build off of going into this Low Ink, and they can start getting back into those Sunday brackets. Gamma bracket teams that are trending up. You got Aether, who on Battlefy has the slanted A, so it looks completely jank, but I believe they're pronounced Aether if you just correct the A and have it stand upright. This was a new team. One of the players that stuck out to me was Dio, formerly of Vento Gaming, and they took second place in Gamma Bracket in their first low ink tournament. So what's the expectation for this team going forward? I don't know, but if you take second place in Gamma Bracket in a month where 140 teams sign up, that's pretty significant versus making second place in a Gamma Bracket when 72 teams sign up. So again, you're going to hear me say this a lot. Less teams means more opportunities for everybody else to rise up. And Aether, I think, is going to have a big jump this tournament. Carbonado. They made Alpha Bracket in the past. I see them as kind of like what Labyrinth X was a couple of months ago. A team that got success early, made Alpha Bracket early on, and then things just started to kind of balance out and things just kind of trend downward. And then it just like, okay, now maybe we overachieved initially. But after you're getting knocked back down, they start to climb back up. Labyrinth X is the team. I'll be talking about them in a couple of minutes, actually. But Labyrinth X was that team. They got high, got knocked down, and started to climb back up. Carbonado's climb has been a little bit slower, but I think we're going to see them starting to get back up into the in the standings now that things have kind of balanced out there. Lastly, Gamma Bracket teams trending upwards. It can't be an official Popcast unless I mention the Wiggly Phantoms to some extent. But now, they're coming off their first tournament win, winning the Little Squid League Invitational. And they usually hover around 3-3 and 4-2 in this tournament. Going 4-2, I believe, in the most recent tournament. And once again, less teams, meaning going 4-2, could be the difference between making Gamma Bracket and Alpha Bracket. Not predicting those kinds of things, but if you're looking for a team that is trending upwards, getting better every single week that they play, and is looking to make a crack out of Gamma and into Beta, or doing some legit damage into Gamma if they get back into it, keep an eye on the Wiggly Phantoms. And if you're not, do you even watch the Popcast? Is this your first episode of the Popcast? All I do is talk about the Wiggly Phantoms. Welcome back to the Wiggly Phantom Cast. Beta teams that are moving and trending upwards. How about the Dream Knights? These guys did really good in Beta Bracket last month. And Dream Knights is honestly a team I don't feel like I talk about enough because I feel like they're one of these sneaky teams that are getting better under the radar without me really paying attention to it. So the Dream Knights are going to be a team I'm going to be looking at a little bit more because they are getting some results in tournaments and getting some nice wins in tournaments. I just don't talk about them enough. Breakfast. I am not sure what their situation is. I thought they disbanded. I'll be completely honest with you. We hadn't seen them in a bit, and I thought they just completely fell off the face of the earth. They came back last month and finished in second place in Beta Bracket, losing only to the Inky Go-Go's in Grand Final. So, Breakfast, a strong team. I feel like their roster is just kind of shifted around a little bit, and now that it might be more set, who knows what we can expect to see them going forward. But from the team that finished second place in Beta, we got to have some high expectations for them. And a former Alpha Bracket team as well. Labyrinth X followed up their Gamma Bracket win in December with a 5th place in Beta Bracket in January. I'm not saying they're completely back to their Alpha Bracket form. Again, I talked about had some success early, had to go back down and climb their way back up. Labyrinth X constantly climbing back up the ladder. I don't know if they have what it takes to crack back into Alpha Bracket yet, but from what we've seen last month, if they make Beta Bracket, they're going to be a threat to win that as well, becoming one of the few teams that has actually won Gamma and Beta. Some of those teams I'll be talking about later on. Teams that interest me before we get into the top 10. So not honorable mentions per se, if you want to put that chip on their shoulder. But teams that just interest me. First off, Symphony. I mentioned them on Monday as a possible SAC top 8 candidate because they have enough points to where if they just do decently well in the next SAC, they could be in the top 8. The problem is, though, they have not made alpha bracket since September and have been on a bit of a drought from that. The problem was that I think I alluded to this problem on Monday, and here's what I think the problem is. I think when it comes to low ink, they feel like there's more pressure on them to win because they've been around a little bit longer, so they might not play as loose as we would expect them to see and maybe play a little bit more tight, and they're like, oh no, we lose and then we lose one more and then we might not get stuck in gamma again. Now, when they play an SAC, there might not be that target on their back. And then it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we can just play how we should be playing, which is just free and having fun and without the pressure of knowing if we lose that Popgun's going to talk about us on the Popcast again. And I think without that kind of pressure, they play better. So that's why, in my mind, my theory is why they traditionally play better in tournaments that are not low ink. I mean, they pop off in testing grounds. I've seen them play. Obviously, they play good in SAC. I think it's just the pressure of low ink, knowing that they're one of the teams people look to eventually win this tournament, is what's just kind of making it a little bit more difficult for them to get past that hurdle. So Symphony interests me, and every time I put them in the top 10, I end up cursing them. So I'm not. I'm going to help them out because I like Symphony. The Kraken Warriors. These guys really, really are interesting right now because they finished 4th place in Minnow Cup. And they've been one of those alpha bracket teams in the past that after they got into alpha bracket kind of slipped back down like Labrex and Coronado. But going 4th place in Minnow Cup is something to be interested in, something to keep your eye on, because that was the Splat Zone Minnow Cup. That is a mode you guys actually have respect for. So Kraken Warriors, definitely interesting. Amnesia made alpha bracket in December, followed that up by making top cut in the Minnow Cup. I feel like these guys have turned the corner. I don't feel like their win or their alpha cut placement last low ink was a fluke. I feel like their Minnow Cup performance justified that. The question now is going to be, can they do it again? Are they going to be a team that consistently stays in alpha bracket? Are they going to be a team that starts winning games in alpha bracket? Or are they going to slip back down in beta or fall back to gamma, or be one of these teams that just completely unqualifies for Sunday as well? The trend is, from what we're seeing from Amnesia, that won't be the case. They're continually improving, but this will be a good statement tournament for Amnesia. As far as how we see them going forward. Toxic Haze, the Destiny Cadets. These guys made beta after winning the Gamma bracket back in November, but they got slain by a pair of Knights. The Dream Knights and Squid Knights did them in beta bracket. So a little bit of an underperforming situation there for the Toxic Haze Destiny Cadet team. But I believe they've been starting to recruit now. I think they realize 4-player teams are really difficult to do unless you're Symphony and ITAP and you just got a solid group of 4 guys that you can do practice as often as you need to build synergy with. 4-player teams usually do really well because it's easier to get synergy. It's really difficult, though, to find 4 players that all have the same schedule and the same kind of dedication and same mindset. So once Toxic Haze gets their roster kind of figured out and add some more players, I think that'll help them going forward, allow them to get more practice in, get some more reps, and help them improve past that beta bracket glass ceiling that seems to be kind of holding them back there. Yes, sir. Last team that interests me, and I don't actually mean this as a joke. I mean this 100% interest. No Diving. What interests me about no diving is that they're starting to threaten to get some upsets here. They've taken a game off of ITAP in a game 3 that ITAP already won the set against. They took a game away from Day Old Sushi. The question now is ITAP starting to turn the corner here? Are they going to actually start taking sets away from some teams? They've shown they're capable of taking some games. Can they start taking some sets here? I'll be keeping an eye on ITAP, or not ITAP. Well, I always keep an eye on ITAP because I like those guys. But I'll be keeping an eye on no diving going forward for that. No diving is the anti-Squiffer team, as I found out. We guys wonder why Wiggly Phantoms stay so wiggly. Well, I interviewed the captain of the Wiggly Phantoms, and they explained just that, why they're so wiggly. Top 10! We'll do honorable mentions, but before we do that, the teams I am not going to mention. First off, the Sea Boys are not in my top 10. You know why? They won SAC tournament number 3. That means they're banned from Low Ink. So, no Sea Boys talk going forward on the Popcast. Unless they really do well in SAC again. Trinity. Let me just double check to make sure Trinity has not registered. I don't expect them to, because I think I saw one of their players post a sub ad. So I think Trinity is taking the month off. Trinity is a team I don't talk about enough, but they are constantly improving in alpha bracket, constantly making alpha bracket. They would be somewhere in my top 10 or honorable mentions if they were to play, but Trinity, I get the sense, is not playing. Also, a team I'm not going to mention is Xylo, because they took their sweet time registering for this tournament and did it literally after I've already written all my thing. Xylo is a top 10 team in this tournament. They are going to make alpha brackets. They are potentially going to win this tournament. I don't know. The initial thought they might be a top 4, top 3 team in my top 10. But since they wait till the last freaking second to register for this tournament, I can't talk about them. So, when you guys, if Xylo wins this tournament and you guys start DMing me, you didn't mention Xylo at all. It's not my fault. It's theirs. Come on now. Don't be coming at me like that. So, no mention for Xylo here, but they're a team that's going to threaten to win this whole tournament. Unless they don't. Honorable mentions. First off, maybe I should have put Splat Force in the teams I'm interested in section than the honorable mention section. But I am interestingly honored by what I've been seeing from Splat Force lately. They made top 8 in Minnow Cup. And they seem to have a new roster, but I guess the concern for Splat Force is I don't know if they're going to play. They seem to always have kind of issues of getting enough players for the whole weekend for Low Ink, which is understandable. Basically, blocking out your entire weekend to play in a tournament isn't something everyone can do, especially when you're an older team, older in the sense of age. Not that they're like CIA levels of old where they're borderline in a nursery home, but they're adults. So we see Splat Force play sometimes we don't, and I don't think they've registered yet. But if they do register and they bring that same kind of roster that they brought in Minnow Cup, I think they could make alpha bracket with that. I legitimately think they're an alpha bracket threat with something like that. Synergy is a team that looked like they were going to be an alpha bracket contender, like a top 5 level contender consistently in Low Ink. They made beta last month and had a really underwhelming performance in Minnow Cup, going to, I believe they went 3-3 in Minnow Cup with some interesting upsets there. So Synergy's kind of taken a little bit of a step back, but they still have potential to be a contender in this tournament. We're just going to need to see a bounce back from them going forward. Twisted Time and Resilience. I had them in my top 10. I think that was a little premature. I think these two teams are successful in SAC. But from what we saw last month in Low Ink, I don't think they were. I don't think they were ready for the spotlight per se. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Low Ink, I mean, yeah, doing well in SAC is one thing, but Low Ink's a different animal in a sense. Like the skill level is a little bit lower, but the pressure that comes on you being a better team in this tournament, the fact that you got to perform well on Saturday and Sunday, a little bit of a different situation than just trying to pop off for 5 or 6 hours over the course of one SAC tournament. But Twisted Time Resilience, I think they're pretty good. ITAP. What can I say about ITAP that I haven't said a gazillion times at this point? You know the Disney movie Hercules, when after the like the middle portion where he's back at talking to Zeus, the statue of Zeus, and he's like, I did all these great things. I beat Symphony twice. I've upset Splatforce in the past. I've done all these things. The crowd went wild. It was amazing. And then Zeus is like, I'm so proud of you, my boy, but you're just missing something. You're not quite there yet. I feel like that's an accurate analogy for where ITAP is at right now. They've done some amazing things, but they're just not quite there yet. They need to get back in the alpha bracket. They need to find a way to get past Solution, which is a very difficult thing for them to do. But I will say this about ITAP. They finally win a full tournament without the fire alarm going off. So there's some trending here. Maybe the curse of January is out of the way, and they can start actually playing tournaments without having to constantly worry about the fear of death, I guess. Burning alive doesn't sound like to be a fun thing to happen to you. So here we go with ITAP. Yet again, another opportunity for them to get back into the ranks of being the team that we expect them to be with the progress they've been making in this tournament. Tonkin is a really good team. They've had 3 good tournament results, and I believe they've only played in 3 tournaments as far as I can find. Top cut in Ash Cup, top cut in Minnow Cup, and 5th place in Beta last month. Tonkin is a team that is improving. We'll see what they can do this month. I think they are a contender to make Alpha Bracket and do some legit damage in there. The Deep Fried Octolings. I want to put them in the top 10. I want to put them in the top 10 because I like them. They're cool. They're constantly improving. They are one of the success stories of low level. A team going from the bottom and slowly climbing their way up to the top. I want to put them in. I need to see them make Alpha Bracket first. I need to see. I know they're getting 3rd place in all these Minnow Cup tournaments, which is impressive. Doing it in Clan Blitz and Splat Zones, being consistently good in Minnow Cup. I need to see them make Alpha Bracket in top and in Low Ink before I can legit see them as a top 10 team. They can't just keep camping out on Beta. And it's interesting because they came so close. They came with like fractions of opponent win percentage points of making it last month. And I think they'll make Alpha Bracket this month, but I need to see it. I need to see it before I can put them in the top 10. That hasn't been the case with other teams. I put Luau at like number 4 when they didn't even win Beta Bracket in their first tournament. That's because I knew what the potential for Luau was. For the Deep Fried Octolings, we've known what their past is, and they haven't shown us a consistent future yet. Their roster's been changing. Obviously, they've been popping off in Minnow Cup. But I need to see success in Low Ink, consistent success in Low Ink this month before I can legit see them as a top 10 contender. But if you want a number 11 spot, put the Deep Fried Octolings at number 11. And with that, I'm done with that thing. Let's get into the most controversial point of the Popcast of every month, the one that you guys always DM me about and I never respond to you, the top 10. So let's get started with that. Number 10. I used the window analogy the last time I talked about the Geek Squids. And they seem to really like that analogy. They like went on Twitter and just talked about windows for the rest of the week. I talked about how the opportunity was there for them to rise up and stake their claim as a legit contender for the crown, coming off a second place finish in the January Ash Cup. But then they had another disappointing Sunday after making Alpha Bracket, being eliminated by the Evening Chickens in Losers Round 2. The only thing they have done since then is Minnow Cup, Splat Zones Edition, where they failed to make top cut in that as well. Despite this, I still have them in my top 10, and while I feel like the window is closed for now, unfortunately, I don't feel like the 9 teams I have ahead of them are completely out of their league. We just need to see them be more. We need to see more of the Geek Squid team that played in Ash Cup and the magic they had from last month. And we'll need to see that in the losers bracket, I feel like, of Alpha on Sunday. Because once they take that loss early in winners, I feel like they're going to need to make a deep run in losers. And that's something we haven't really seen them do consistently in Alpha up to this point. Still a top 10 team, but I don't see them as highly as I did at the beginning of before last lowing started. Number 9. You guys remember that team that went 5-1 last month and didn't make Alpha Bracket? That was Red Sun, who followed that up by finishing in 3rd place in a very competitive beta bracket. Red Sun is a team I've mentioned on Monday as a contender to make top 8 in SAC this season. This lowing could be an opportunity for them to make a statement heading into a critical SAC Tournament 4 by getting back to Alpha Bracket here and doing some damage on Sunday, which they are more than capable of doing. Remember, there are not as many teams this month, so going 5-1 is basically a lock to get into Alpha Bracket. So I would be surprised if Red Sun, with how well they've been playing in SAC this season, didn't bounce back this month in lowing. Number 8. I don't know what's the problem, but I think I've found the solution. The EU team solution has been consistent lately, making Alpha Bracket and taking Deco X to a game 5 in winners bracket of Alpha last month, and making top cut in Minnow Cup as well. Basically, how I see them right now is just the slightly better Geek Squids. They are consistent in making top cuts. They just go a little bit further than what we see the Geek Squids do. Now, one of the reasons they keep making top cuts is because they keep playing ITAP in the final round of Swiss, and they just countered their comp better in reality. Just a really poor matchup. It's like Charizard versus Venusaur. They're both really strong, but Charizard just is the better type matchup. But what will happen if they play another Charizard in round 6 of Swiss this month? Will they keep their spot in Alpha, or are they going to be one of those teams that spend more time than they should be spending in Beta? We'll find that out this month, I feel like. Number 7. Unlighted is a team I've been missing on my Popcast. So let me get you guys caught up on what they've been doing. In September, they went 2-4. In October, November, and December, they went 3-3 in all of those. In January, they went 5-1 out of nowhere and won Group D. They were the best team in Group D at the end of the day. That came out of nowhere. A 3-3 team completely popping off over the course of a month. What happened there? Then they went on and won Minnow Cup. They won the Minnow Cup out of this as the number 13 seed in Top Cut. This has got to be one of the biggest improvements in all of lower level, and it never caught my attention until they won a tournament and demanded my attention. Now, everyone has them on their radar. Ask Resilience and Twisted Time how much fun that is. What I really like about the Minnow Cup win, though, is that they went 4-2 in Swiss, following the mindset that you don't have to be sexy in Swiss. You just got to qualify. You just got to do just enough to qualify for top cut or alpha bracket, and then you can take care of business there. It seems like the 3-3 days for Enlightened are long gone, but now that they're going to be lighted on the main stage, let's see how they can respond to that kind of pressure. Number 6. Do you guys like windows so much? The window's open for twice right now. But unlike the Geek Squids, it's for a very different reason. It seems like Twice is in control of their destiny to make top 8 in SAC. They're currently the number 7 team. They just got to take care of business in tournament number 7, and they'll hold on to their spot there. But if they make top 8, traditionally, that has been viewed by Low Ink staff as a bannable offense. So for Twice, this could be their last shot until the window closes permanently on them. Recent results are promising. 7th place last month in Low Ink overall. 5th place in the most recent SAC tourney. So they're right there with anybody in this tournament and are playing better each week. No major flaws or weaknesses either that really stick out other than just the teams ahead of them having better results. The 5 teams that I have above them, I feel like are just have more results and have proven more up to this point as to why they should be above them. But as far as skill level is concerned, I don't feel like they are beyond them. Number 5. Infinite doesn't have a ton of history on Battlefy as far as tournaments are concerned. But what they do have is impressive. They finished tied for 5th overall in Low Ink last month, but decided to skip Minnow Cup in favor of the Grand Graining Grounds. And what did they do in that tournament? Well, nothing on Saturday in the group stage. But in those Sunday brackets, the single elim brackets that happened at the crack of dawn, they didn't drop and actually played in the Epsilon bracket. The beating teams like the Crustacean Crusaders, swept the addicted Penguins, and won Game 7 against Fractured to win the bracket. That is a lot of really impressive teams that they played right there. Not too shabby. To the mountain of people who claimed everyone should be in Triple G instead of playing in Minnow Cup, first, piss off. Second, keep an eye on Infinite here. This Low Ink would be perfect to showcase how much they have grown. And I am seeing in chat that apparently they're not playing, even though they registered. So if you want to put Xylo somewhere, cross out Infinite and put Xylo in the 5th place spot. There you go. Easy fix. Another issue with doing these things right before the tournament starts. You don't know who actually is going to play. But fair enough. Regardless, Infinite still deserves a bit of a shout out for what they've accomplished so far. Number 4. Teams that win beta bracket traditionally have done well in Low Ink the next month. And the same should be expected of the Inky Go-Go's. The team that finished 4th in December in Alpha bracket tripped up in Swiss in January, finishing in 5th place in Group B, just barely missing Alpha. But to their credit, when we have usually seen teams in that similar situation drop and not play in beta bracket at all on Sunday, they played and dominated beta bracket, proving that Saturday was just a Swiss fluke. With less teams, the path to alpha bracket should be easier for Inky Go-Go's, and as the only team in this tourney that is currently ranked in the top 60, the Western top 60, the other team shouldn't sleep on this beta bracket champion because they are really, really good. Number 3. I'm a little sus of putting the Evening Chickens this high on the list, but I feel like they've earned it. This is a team that has slowly been climbing the ranks, consistently moving up and very rarely move back down. They won Gamma Bracket in July. They won Beta Bracket in October and finished in 4th place in Alpha Bracket overall in January. Initially, when I saw that, I was really surprised that they played that well. But when it dawned on me, it was like, wait a minute, these guys are always improving. They're always getting better. We should be expecting even better results from them going forward from here on out, because they very rarely, like I said, take a step backwards. When the 2-day system came into play, we expected to see more teams like this that would slowly climb the ranks from Gamma to Alpha. And with little to no hiccups along the way for the Chickens, it is understandable to think they will continue to take the next step and get on the podium at some point in Alpha Bracket this month. Thank you. Okay, this is why I shouldn't be paying attention to chat when I'm doing these things. You guys don't know anything. So Infinite might play. Who knows? We'll wait and see. Like Splatoon 3 in the patch. Just wait and see what actually happens. Number 2. Deco X dropped the 27 in their name. They're no longer Deco X 27. They're just Deco X. I think they realized that their name doesn't need to match their Gmail account, and they can just go with just drop the 27. But it's still the same Deco X squad that went 9-0 in matches before running into the Matrix monster. It was the reindeer sled team that went 6-0 in Swiss in December. In other words, these guys are really good and clearly at a skill level necessary to win this entire tournament. Here are my concerns, though. They've played in 2 tournaments since the last Low Ink, and they've had to drop in them both times, never finishing either tournament. That's kind of concerning considering that this is a 2-day tournament. So are they going to have enough players to last out the entire weekend is a concern of mine that we need to see going forward. Secondly, how they handle adversity is a bit of an issue as well. They were playing great and they were handling situations great until they finally got punched in the mouth at the end of the tournament in January. And once they got punched in the mouth by Rising Matrix, which everybody did, to be fair, it seemed like they didn't really get back up. C-Boys knocking them out completely in the losers bracket. And they also no longer have the element of surprise. They were a team that we didn't really know last Low Ink. Now we do. Now they're a team that everybody is aware of. And they are going to become the hunted versus being a hunter, which is something we talk about a lot here on the podcast. The field might not be as strong as last month. The C-Boys are gone. Rising Matrix is gone, obviously. But I feel like the path will still be even more difficult for Deco X to get back into the position that they were last time. What happens if they trip up in Swiss and they take a L early? How are they going to respond to that? What if they don't go 6-0 and they go and they take a L, or what if they just have like a player drop and they have to lose a set and then they have to play the rest of Saturday knowing, oh, we can't lose one more game or we're going to be in beta bracket. Those are concerns we always have when we look at teams like this. Obviously, Deco X has the skill to win this tournament. We just need to see if they have the stamina to pull it off. Number 1. I've never put a team at number 1 back-to-back before. And while Squid Row might burn me again by either not registering or dropping or just underperforming on Sunday, I still feel like they are the safest bet to win this tournament. The combination of experience, skill, and strategy is unmatched by any of the other teams here. Doesn't mean they are invincible, though. Unlightened beat them in Middle Cup finals, and Unlightened also beat them in Swiss, even though Squid Row was able to get revenge on them in Alpha Bracket losers. I don't feel like there is a clear-cut favorite this month, and for that reason, I feel like the safest bet is to just go with the team that has the experience, the synergy, the strategy, and the skill necessary to win this tournament, because I feel like all the other teams have flaws in specific categories. Deco X not having the experience, Infinite, maybe not having the synergy just yet, things like that. So, do I feel confident that Squid Row is going to win this tournament? No, I don't feel confident in picking a specific winner this month around. But if I had to put one team down, I feel like the safest bet is to go with the consistent team. So I'll take Squid Row. With that being said, we have gotten through 2 episodes of the Popcast in the same week, with about several hours of shoveling the driveway in between them. We are going to end this here. Please, if you have not registered for this tournament yet and you are playing in it, play in the frickin' tournament and register now. I'm going to do a lot of verification at my actual work, kind of like Decora is doing right now, of this. So please register your team now. If you wait to the last minute, that's not a guarantee that you're going to play. There have been teams that signed up too late, and we didn't have enough time to find information on them because we have to do some digging. And sometimes we just be like, look, we can't figure this out quick enough. You didn't give us enough time. You can't play this month. Don't be that team. Sign up now. If you don't know where the link is, then I don't know what, I mean, I could post it in chat, but you guys should know where these things are. You know how to find this. And regardless, if you want to reach out to me, if you would like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out to me on Discord at popgun #5882, Twitter at Mr_Popgun, YouTube at 25popgun, Twitch at popgun25. The VOD of this will be up later. Yes, I'm excited about Splatoon 3. I'm excited about the patch note. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay warm, keep wearing your mask. Don't do anything stupid like I know a lot of you are capable of doing.